for us in the Hangout too. A lot of times people come in early. There we go. Aha. Brandy, I don't think I don't know if you've met any of the people that I talk to or do things online with. Tell us who you are and how we met and what we chatted about. What makes you awesome? Oh,
Hello.
Brandy.
Can't
Brandy,
hear you.
I hear you. I knew there was something wrong. How about we do this? Brandy, make sure your audio is up. Cadero, you're there. Yes, I can't hear a word you're saying. Do you want to go out and come back in, Brandy? Yeah, we can't hear. How about this, Cordero?
He's on mute.
Yourself. Muting is good, so people don't have to listen to the background, but unmute yourself, buddy.
I'm unmuted. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, we just started chatting a little while ago, and you asked me a couple of questions, and I said, you weren't the only person to ask me some questions, and a lot of people wanted to talk to us, and so I brought in my backup pistol. Some people say go get the strap. I say go get Elise, and she's a traveler as well. But I wanted to hear your questions and hopefully some other people that will jump in. What I will ask you to do is, do you see on Facebook when I added you to that comment? I want you to share that on your timeline. Uh-oh, did Cordero leave us? Everybody's having technical difficulties today on us, Elise. You with me?
Yep, I see your tag right now.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Let me see. Got it. I've added it to my timeline.
Cool. And you can feel free to add me on Twitter or any place else. But what I wanted to go through is, you had a couple of questions, and tell us who you are and what you do. I mean, of course, you and I just met, but I want to hear a little bit more about you, because I think some of the things that you and I said back and forth represent a lot of things that a lot of people want to know, or questions they have, or things that they wanted to say.
Yeah, so I'm Cordero Davis. I'm an international HR consultant. I actually started my international journey about 7 years ago. I started out as an English teacher in Shanghai, China. I transitioned into a curriculum consultant role that led me to Hong Kong and Singapore. And for the past, between that time and now, I've worked in Silicon Valley for big tech companies. And I got into consulting, HR consulting. And so I took on a role that was in Singapore for about almost a year. And I decided that I needed to be closer to home. A lot of things came up, and I just didn't feel the same way I felt when I was 24 and I lived in China. I didn't feel going into turning 30. And so I am currently in the market for opportunities that still give me exposure to be abroad, but are a bit closer to home. Being 10,000 miles away from home can be extremely tough, especially when you don't have support and love around you. A couple of things that I learned along the way. I've been to about 29 countries now, so I'm not afraid to go anywhere. But I do know that the longer I stay abroad and away, the more I miss at home. Being a part of companies who do not appreciate the importance of family and belonging is extremely tough as well. Being a man of color. Black man, won't say a man of color. And now I'm just in a space where I'm at home, but I still don't feel like I'm a part of home because I've seen so much in the world. So now I'm looking for an opportunity to kind of bridge that gap where I can still have that international exposure, but have access to my family when I need to.
Wow. All you want is everything, right?
Correct.
So it sounds like, and I'm not being weird or funny, it sounds like you want the best of both worlds. You want to be able to have access to that international lifestyle without having to actually do the international part.
Yes, sir. Even if it was an opportunity for me to maybe travel 3 to 4 times a month, I'm okay with that. But being away and like having my home away from here, it's pretty tough.
And see, one of the things that I see, and at least feel free. Oh, wait, Brandy, are you up? Can you unmute yourself and just say hello? Let me know you're there. Let me know I can hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi.
So what I look at is, and I'm not trying to be a nihilist, I don't know if you can get it both ways. I know a lot of international opportunities, but I don't know if any of them allow you to have a foot in both oceans. That was almost funny. I don't know if either one of them will let you have a foot in both oceans because they want commitment. People want commitment from the people that they bring into their companies. If you're going to be part of that country and part of that culture and part of that lifestyle, they're probably going to want you to live there. They're going to look at you and say, okay, why is it that you can't, be here with us? Why is it that you can't wholly commit to being part of, this team and this culture? Be it corporate culture or just the culture of the social atmosphere. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, definitely. That's why my question was to you, because I've been doing a lot of research on it myself, and it has definitely seemed difficult. So my question was to you, if you had or knew of any opportunities that were closer to the United States, that still could give me that exposure, because with my background being so niche, it's difficult for me to say that I can fit in anywhere.
Then let me do this. And before I go with my answer, I don't want to cut. At least Brandy, do either of you have anything to say before I jumped in?
Yeah, I do. Oh, me? It's my turn? Okay, sorry. I didn't hear my name. I didn't hear my name. I was an auditor for the feds, and the way it would work was, I could do 3 months here or 3 months there, not necessarily in desirable locations because they were usually in the Middle East. Or you could do a stint, a year here, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I think the max was 5 years, but they had cut it down to 3. Outside of probably owning your own business where you travel back and forth, I mean, yeah, I'm with Yusef on, you have to pick something. But I know companies that do 3 month stints at a time, 90 days. In the feds, we call them details. So it'll be 90 days at a time. But other than that, in HR, I don't know about HR. Audit, the sky's the limit. So on that one.
Thank you.
Brandy, do you want to go in there?
I'm with them too. I'm in education, so I lived in Kuwait, and me and my daughter are moving to Bangkok. So there's no way that I can just decide, today I'm going to be in America and tomorrow I'm going to be in Egypt or whatever. I have to fulfill the whole entire contract until it's complete.
Yeah, my
Thanks,
friend. Well, here's one I can say. And I don't want this to sound like a cut and paste solution, although this solution is one that I find more and more often giving to people. You got to find a way to work only for yourself and see if you can work for yourself in the capacity of a freelancer, of a mercenary, of someone who can take your job skills, create, like one of the things I do, I'm a writer, copywriter, proofreader. I help people with different things in English. The English language is what I do. That's how I run my company. But one of the things that I've learned to do is simply take who I am. I'm on LinkedIn, but I only work through referrals, and just see where can I fit that. And I only work for myself. I don't have to have a company. People will hire me sometimes for a period of time, sometimes for a contract, and say, we want your skill set to be applied to what we need for our company or for our startup or for our business model that we already have. I have clients that are everything from giant multinationals that ask me to rewrite their website in correct university level English, to individuals who, for example, if you're someone who's not native to English but speaks English and you're going to give a TED talk, for example, they'll hire me to work with them for 4 months on how to deliver clear, distinct English speech. But all that falls into it. I have people who speak English but not American English who will hire me to edit their book, and I'll edit their book into American English. But all those come from my wheelhouse. Where can we think outside of the box for you to help you with your skill set to find something else? That's a direct 100% question to you, Cordero.
Okay.
You can also teach online too. I mean, I know a lot of teachers that do that too. They live
But Brandon,
abroad.
I don't think Cordero wants to walk away from his wheelhouse. I think he's invested a lot of time in his career. I think he wants to stick with the tools that he's already sharpened. If I'm wrong, correct me.
So at this point, I'm open to a combination of things. I usually tell people that I have the exposure of working in an international education environment. So I don't think too many Black men, specifically in America, have that experience. And so I always hold that near and dear because it was a great experience. Um, my biggest piece that I've been trying to expand with my personal business has been in diversity and inclusion. So as you know, that's the largest conversation in the States and other countries too that have like a tech focus. And so more recently, I got accepted into Tufts Diversity and Inclusion Executive MBA program, as well as Cornell University's executive MBA program, focusing on change leadership. At this point, I've had so much experience and exposure to the environment. I don't necessarily need an MBA, but it'd be great to just add it on, just to get that checkbox. But those are the areas that I truly want to specialize in and move forward with is inclusion, diversity programs, making sure that people feel part of the workplace. And that's been my gift for the past at least 4 years of working for big tech companies and working overseas. My job was to handle most of employee relations problems when it comes to people feeling included in the workplace. And that even means designing a set of ideas that help companies move forward with that goal of reaching their diversity numbers.
I say something. I actually knew a woman. She came, I want to say it was Shell. It was an oil company because she was in Houston and she moved to Mexico City for a detail. She stayed for a year, I believe it was. They moved her and everything. And she was actually in HR. I could put you in touch with her, see what she says about it. Because I don't really know anything about HR. My background was audit. But yeah, I could definitely put you in touch with her because she moved from to Mexico City from Houston, and I want to say it was Shell. She worked for the oil company. Mm-hmm.
Well, hold on, let me back up. Elise, tell them where you are and what you're doing out there.
I'm in Merida, Mexico. It's a city about 1 million people or so. I'm on the beach. And I started beaforeigner.com because people kept asking me over and over again, how do you move abroad? Why did you move abroad? How is it like moving abroad? I need help moving abroad. And so I'm in the process of getting funding and looking for HR people. So me and you would probably be good together. To get different positions. I have started a job board, and I want to branch out into so many different things, consulting and webinars and things like that. So that's where I am at the moment. So yeah, HR is kind of my thing, but I'm more into let's map out a plan and get you to where you need to be,
Strategy. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Brandy?
Oh, I'm from Houston, Texas, and recently me and my daughter just came back to Houston because we were deported. We were deported from Kuwait. It was an awful experience.
There's a story here. Take your time.
Oh, are you the lady in the article?
That's me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
I want to hear about how do you get deported? Are you a thug?
Okay. So, first of all, when me and my daughter, when I first started deciding that I wanted to teach overseas, the first job that I actually was offered was in Japan, in Sendai. And so it kind of fell through. And so I started looking other places. And so I just randomly looked at the map and I said, let's go to Kuwait. And so my daughter, she was like, Kuwait? And I'm like, yes. And I said, no one goes there. I'm like, we should do. And so I started telling her about the Gulf War. Now, mind you, my daughter is 12 years old at the time that I'm explaining this to her. She's like, okay, whatever. And so she started getting really excited about it. And so she started teaching herself Arabic. And so the first job, I applied for a job on Teachaway, and I found the first school that I worked at, and it was awful. And so then I switched schools, and then that second school was the school where I got actually deported from. And so the school they failed to complete all of my residency like they're supposed to do. And I mean, and it's typical. That's what some schools do. It's like we're there to make them money. And if it's a legitimate international school, you're not going to leave America on a tourist visa. You're not supposed to do it. So I was to blame for some of that, but the school ultimately did the bulk of it. And so me and my daughter, like this time last year, we went to Oman during Ramadan. And when we came back, they were like, you're not getting into the country. And I'm like, what? And they were like, no. And so I'm calling the officials from the school. No one is coming up there. They're ignoring my calls. It was awful. And then they held us in the airport for like 5 hours. They didn't detain me or anything. And the only thing that stopped them from putting handcuffs on me was because I had an American passport, literally. It was like another couple. They were from like Pakistan. They were in handcuffs. It was a lady from Africa. She was in handcuffs. And like me and my daughter, like I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom. We had been waiting in the airport for like 6 hours. And so my daughter is listening to them. Now, mind you, I can understand some Arabic, but my daughter can speak it. And so she's listening to them. She's like, they're telling us that we got to go. We can't stay here. And I'm like crying. My daughter's holding it together and I'm falling apart. And so finally, they were like, you need to change your plane ticket. So I changed my plane ticket. I'm paying for this. This all coming out of my pocket. They didn't want us in the country at all at this point. They were treating me like I was some terrorist. So I don't know what the hell they saw on their computer screen. I don't know what that school did, but I was completely blocked. I could not get into the country. And so after I spent all this money changing the plane tickets, they were like, no, you need to leave now. So they like overrode whatever I did and we had to leave. Like we immediately, like, I think it was about we had like 20 minutes and we boarded the plane to Doha. And then from Doha, we came back to Houston. And I lost thousands of dollars it was a terrible, terrible experience. And I mean, my daughter is the real MVP because she was the one who just like held it together. And I held it together, but I was just more in like shock that this school just completely like disassociated themselves away from me because one, they're not supposed to be having teachers who are not, legally supposed to be working there because they can get in a lot of trouble. So right. They quickly just like exited left, like we don't have anything to do with you. And so I was just like there to fend for myself. But my daughter, she held it together, but I mean, it was awful. And so that's how I started my company to help teachers who want to actually move abroad and, prevent them from going through the same things that I had to go through. And I do recruitment for some international schools, not many, but it's some that I work with. But, and that's where we're at now. And in July, we're actually moving to Bangkok. And we're leaving the right way.
Wow, I lived in Bangkok for 2 years, let's say. Bangkok, Thailand. I lived there for about 2 years. It's food is great, spicy, hot. Love it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story. I had some very similar experiences, and so I've spent months actually healing from those experiences, and so
it's traumatic.
It's very traumatic. Yeah. So I quit the last company I was with because they were abusing employees, and and they didn't want me to come back in the country, and I basically ended up homeless in Singapore. So
and I don't think people get that.
Singapore.
They want to let me back in my condo because I quit the job. So what they say is once you transfer from a from a resident visa, you transfer to a visitor's visa. And so once you have that visitor's visa, they can no longer rent to you.
Well,
even though I had paid my rent for a whole year.
My question to you, and I'm going to give you some devil's advocate pushback here. When you quit, was it a sudden quit, or did you give them notice and say, I'm leaving?
No, I gave them notice.
Oh, you gave them their money?
Mm-hmm. Gave them notice.
Yeah, and it's a lot of teachers that do that. And then it's like the schools feel they get kind of salty because you're leaving. And so if you decide like this is not for me anymore, or this is not what I signed up for, then they can totally, in like within a second, your life can just totally be changed. Really? And if it's not a reputable school, then like that school, you know, that I was at, even though that school has been around for like years or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're not going through the proper process of getting teachers over there legally. If you're leaving America on a tourist visa, do not, if they're trying to get you to do it, just do not do it at all.
They're trying to get across. Well, let me back up. Brandy, you did it on a tourist visa. Cordero, did you do it on a tourist visa?
Mm-mm. I was an actual resident. So
wow.
They moved me there. They paid me to come there.
for you, Cordero, what I will say is very unusual. I've never heard of anyone who's done things legally being treated badly because they have legal recourse. Because if you did do everything correctly, meaning put in your notice saying I'm going to be gone in a month and do everything the correct way, you have legal recourse. Now, people who do things illegally, I have compassion, but at the same time, it doesn't really work out that well for people who do things without doing it the right way. It's a very different situation.
Yeah, I actually no, go ahead.
I was going to say this about my situation. So when you're leaving, like, so for me, you can start the residency process here, and then you can complete it when you get in the country. And so that's what a lot of teachers did. You know, you go through the medical check and you go and get your documents authenticated here. And so when you get to the country, you're in hopes like, oh, okay, I have all my receipts, I have all these things. And the school failed to do, you know, I had my part done. They just didn't transfer anything over. They didn't do any of that. And I wasn't the only teacher that was like that. We paid like thousands of dollars to get all of this stuff taken care of, and nothing.
When my experience with China and I had to come back home, I left in the dead of the night because I've heard horror stories. I packed my stuff up and I left in the dead of the night because they weren't going to hold me. They wasn't going to take my passport. They wasn't going to do anything to me. And I literally left in the dead of the night. And I was so scared because my plane, I was in a small city and my plane was delayed for like 6 hours or something. And I just kept thinking in the back of my mind, they're coming to get me. They're coming to get me. But I made it back to Beijing and you know, came back to San Francisco. But nah, I wasn't about that life because I've read and heard horror stories about them trying to trap people.
And it's crazy because it's not just the whole that end of being deported because you're not there legally, but if you have debt from the country too, you can also be detained. Teachers don't know, a lot of people don't know that if you have like outstanding credit card debt or any loans that you get within the country, they will hold you at that airport.
Yeah, and on the other side though, it breaks my heart to know that people are trying to leave a country with credit card debt, knowing that they owe someone money. Again, I'm not doing what's called victim blaming because as far as you, Cordero, I'm going to do everything I can to help you because I know you did everything the right way. I'll do the same for anyone who asks. But at the same time, I see so many expats and people who go to other countries who don't believe that the rules apply outside of their own country. Americans are very guilty of this. They go to another country and behave in ways they know they'd never get away with in America, yet they think somehow someone has done something wrong to them by saying that's not okay. I know what you said. I know people that have accrued debt in other countries and then thought, I've got this bank card. I'm not going to pay it off. I'm just going to go to my next country, get to the airport, and they go, oh, yeah, you can pay it here or you can go to the bank. What do you prefer? And call crying like somebody's holding them for ransom.
Right. Yeah, that part of it, I don't feel sorry. If you like knowingly create a debt for yourself and you decide like I'm just gonna skip out on this country, forget them, and I'm gonna go live my best life in another country. Absolutely not. You should get in some sort of, trouble for that. But like my situation, I did not ask for that. I was, ultimately, coming back because we were actually switching countries. We were moving from Kuwait to Oman, and honestly, like kind of similar to what Cordero said, like, if you tell them you're not coming back and, even if you kind of keep it on the hush and you're like, okay, I'm going to wait to tell them at the end and they find out and they get a little upset, the schools just, they do what they do.
It happens in America.
Yeah, it happens.
That's why I've never given a 2-week notice at none of my jobs. Never. I never have. I just left.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm leading a charmed life, but I've never been in that situation. Well, to be fair, I've worked for myself for almost all my life, though. I mean, I've worked a couple of jobs in college, and then I had a career as a financial professional before, but that's kind of different because you represent your clients to a company and not the other way around. But yeah, it can kind of go back and forth. But going back to our first issue that you had, Cordero, I think your answer might have to be working for Cordero. The answer might have to be really learning how to rebrand yourself as someone who can do something somewhere for a specific period of time that will allow you to work on a contract by contract basis. Take a contract in wherever you want to go, stay there for 3 months, 6 months, wherever. And then when you come back to the United States, you can stay there as long as necessary. And I'm here if you need help with that. I'm more than happy to help you with your, if you need help writing things, you're writing a website, your proposal papers to clients, people have hired me. And this is not a sales pitch, by the way, but I'm here for you if you need it. You said something earlier that I wanted to go back to, though. When you've gone back to what's the longest you stayed out of the United States?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. And you talked about going back. Because I know Elise and I, we've talked about this. What was it like going back?
It was a bit scary. This time it wasn't with a government agency trying to get me to be a teacher in China. This time it was with a corporation that was very small, still in the startup time. And they needed a lot of coaching and developing. But I thought with all of my expertise and exposure, being that I come from Silicon Valley, I would be able to change and influence that. But I wasn't. And this time I felt like the things that I suffered with in China, such as like housing or, language barriers or food, because I couldn't eat food in China for 6 months. I was sick all the time.
Really?
I didn't have that problem when I moved to Singapore. Singapore was almost like too easy almost, but the work part was definitely, the professional piece was my struggle. I had my condo within 2 weeks in Singapore. I had amazing food around me. I had great resources. I had a driver, had a maid, had all the perks that you can even think of. I got paid decent money. I kind of built my own schedule, but I was still probably the only one in the bunch that was not being mistreated in the workplace, and that was bothering me. And I didn't know that it was bothering me until months later. People would come to work crying. There would be fights breaking out between engineers. I went to work as a counselor, not as a HR consultant, and that was bothering me. When I would say things to the founders to get them to change their mindsets, they would say things like, "Oh, do you believe it? You don't think that's true, do you?" And I would just have to walk away from me sometime laughing because I'm just like, wow, these people are okay with these behaviors. I'm the problem. I don't belong here. And so I let it go on for maybe like 10 months. And then I just started realizing that I can't be here any longer. And that's when I decided to talk to one of them. And I said, I'm thinking that this is not the right opportunity, and I would like to leave. And they was like, "No, you can't leave. You're supposed to be in the contract for 2 years." Yeah, he told me I couldn't leave. I said, "Well, I'm going to resign, just like MOM, which is the Ministry of Manpower for Singapore. They advised me to just resign, give a month's notice, and that's what I did." I took a 2-month trip to Australia. I traveled from the west to the east of Australia in Bali.
I lived in Sydney. I had a good time.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah. And I thought it over, and I told them I wasn't going to return. I left my laptop, my company cards, all in a locker. Told them they can get it, and have a nice life. And I got back to Singapore, and that's when they had alerted my landlord that I was no longer on an employment visa. I was on a tourist visa, and she wouldn't let me in my condo. So when I got there, mind you, I stayed in a very expensive condo. I paid $4,000 a month for my condo.
Let me back
When
up.
I got there, my cards didn't work, huh?
Let me ask a quick question though. When you left, you talked to the Ministry of Employment, right?
Ministry of Manpower.
Ministry of Manpower.
Mm-hmm.
And from that meeting, you went on holiday? You went on vacation?
No, after I gave them my notice, I took my vacation time.
That's cool.
Wait, let me back up. You gave them your notice and then took vacation time. How does that
Correct.
work?
Well, I requested my vacation time and it got approved. That's how it works.
So we're in a situation where you told them you wanted to take a holiday, but then after the holiday, you said, I'm actually just not coming back.
Well, they already knew I wasn't coming back, but the vacation time was for me to think it over. Well, come back and give us another pitch.
Okay.
We may move you to a new team or something like that. And, and I was just like, it was uncomfortable for me. And I just really didn't want to work in the environment anymore.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
Do you want to stay in the States, or could you live somewhere close to the States, say like Canada, Mexico, or Guatemala, where it's direct flight? Because, when I lived in Mexico City, I would go coming back and forth every other month. Like, basically, my dad's like, when are you going to actually stay there? So, that's an option too, because, my family's in Houston, and so Mexico City was only an hour and a half away, and a trip is only $200 round trip. So, I would just be like, I'm ready to go home and come home.
That actually is actually that would be an awesome opportunity, simply because my family's here in Mississippi, so it's easy access to them at any time. I can travel to Memphis or Jackson, but if I can live in a country that's outside of the U.S. but within a 2 to 3 hour flight to get home would be great.
Okay. Well, that's an option then. That's an option.
Yeah, that was a rough patch you were in there, my friend.
Yeah, it all happened so fast because the only reason immigration let me back in the country is because I had interviews with other companies. I was interviewing with Grab, Facebook at the time, and with 2 other companies. And so I was actually going to take another job. But when all of that happened, I was like, I'm just going to come back home.
Wow.
Well, at least they let you get inside the country to get your things.
They didn't want to. They didn't want to. I had to show them the emails.
They did not let me back. And so they actually wouldn't let me in. They were going to let my daughter in. And so I'm like, I'm not going to send my daughter in a cab. Well, even though she knew her way around Kuwait, I wasn't going to send her. And then nothing was going to happen to her, but I didn't do that. So what ended up happening and how we got all of our belongings was because we had a maid too. And so our maid had the key to our apartment. And so my best friend had, my maid gave the key to my best friend. And so she went to our apartment and got all of our things and came to the airport, just like literally right before we were getting ready to leave. And then they were trying to throw away my laptop.
Wow. Well, I had to call the police. Actually, one of my old directors from Facebook knew someone that lived there that was that worked within administration, and so we called the police and got the police over to my house with the landlord, and she had to let me in. But she bribed me to let me in. I had to pay her $1,000 to get in.
What?
Yep. She said damage fees because you have to move out early. I know you've paid up rent, but we still need to make sure that we're covered because we don't know if you're coming back or not. So she tells me at this point, I'm holding your condo for you for 2 months until you come back to us with an employment visa. So I had to basically roll my stuff out of my condo. And when I got to the taxi, that was it for me. I didn't know at that moment it was, but I just started trying to put together a flight to get home, you know.
Yeah, I would have been done with
Yeah,
Singapore
I
as a
was
whole.
done. Yeah, I was pretty much done. And so I told those companies that I could not make it to the interviews that week. It was Christmas week, by the way. I said I couldn't make it to the interviews. I'm going to see my family. Can't reschedule. And you know, a month passed, and I was like, I'm still here, so I'm just going to reach out and tell them I'm not coming back.
Wow.
Wow. Well, Mexico City's an option.
you know any jobs there? I'm totally open to that.
Mexico City is one of the largest cities on earth. They have all the companies there, like all of them. Every company you can think of.
I live in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I've been here. This is the longest I've been in any one country. I've been here 4 years, and it's one of the largest cities in the world, and it has everything. There's nothing you can't find here. It's a matter of whether or not you're going to do the work. What a lot of people do is they'll come, and I suspect Elise may say the same thing about Mexico City. People will come here knowing the city's reputation for having everything, but then when they get here, think it should just fall into their lap. You know, I established a business here, but I often tell people my business was online that I can translate anywhere, so it's not like I just jumped here. My business has expanded quite a bit, but you have to know the people, you have to know the culture, and you have to have the right handshakes, and that's something that a lot of people don't want to do. But what I would ask you is, have you considered where you want to have your base? By base, I mean, where do you want to be 70, 80% of the time, and do you mind being someplace else? Is living in the United States, are you there? How long have you been there now, by the way?
I've been back for 4 months now. Yeah.
How do you feel on the inside? Do you want to stay there?
No.
Trick question.
I feel
Now, and here's the problem, and this is something I've talked about over and over again privately, publicly. Elise and I have talked about it. Once you have left the village, it's not that you don't want to go back. And by village, I'm using a metaphor. We can say city, town. Yep. Once you've left home, not only can you not go back, they will never let you come back in. When I was a very young man, I lived in Bangkok, Thailand for a while, and I met an older guy who had left IBM and had this giant retirement. And he got bored, and he opened a company there, and we would talk about things. Before I left, he said, young man, I want to take you out for a steak before you leave. I said, great. This man's going to give you some wisdom. Near the end of the dinner, he said, I want you to remember something when you go back to the United States and you see your family and the people you love. It's not them, it's you. And I said, what do you mean? He said, shut up and eat the steak. And when I got back, I said, well, why are people behaving really weird towards me? I'm the same cousin, nephew, whoever, friend from high school. There's nothing wrong with them. Once you've seen more of the world, you smell different. You know things that are not academic about the way the world works that fundamentally change who you are on the inside. And the terrible thing I'm going to tell you right now, my friend, because I think Elise knows it and Brandy knows it, I'm not quite sure if you do, you can never go home again. I don't care where you put your bags. You can never, where you are right now, maybe where you were born, but you will never be part of that group again. And it breaks me sometimes because I realize when you go back and you're like, hey, let me share this with you, and you realize if they were interested in it, they would have done it. So when you tell people they're based in the United States, I've seen too many people fall into, there's a technical word for it, but I don't know what it is. There's actually a form of depression for people who end up having to go back to where they were born if it's not where they want to be.
Reverse culture shock.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when you go back and the same things that brought you joy before, I mean, the experiences that you had, rolling out of your hotel, having to bribe people to get your stuff back, people treating you bad, those things have built pieces of you inside that other people don't even have the capacity for. You've grown in ways that you will never be able to. That set of experiences, you can never teach someone.
Never.
And you're bigger and stronger. You look in the mirror and you see the same person. But when other people see you, they kind of see a rod in your spine there's something different about him. Here's what you don't know. You're afraid of a lot less than you were before, and people know it. You walk differently. Things that might have upset you before, now you're just like, I've dealt with things and people bigger and stronger than you.
Yes.
It takes a while before you'll get it, but they look at you and they immediately go, who does he think he is?
Oh, to add what Yusuf said about the connections in different countries, I've paid for a business mentor here in Mexico that have made connections for me, to me, whatever you want to call it. Um, and so that's one thing you might have to do when you start your own business. I highly encourage, if anyone is looking to start a business just anywhere, to get a business mentor that knows what they're doing. This lady works with Latinos. I was actually shocked because she contacted me and I'm like, I'm not Latino. She was like, I don't care. You live in Mexico though. She's put me onto a lot of stuff. So, yeah, wherever you go to, get a mentor.
And I'm fortunate that I worked in an area that allowed me, my mentor who brought me up, he saw a lot of business, a lot of raw business talent, and he really trained me, not necessarily in the technical aspects of business, but he taught me a lot of the things that you really can't teach. And I was so fortunate for it. I was so fortunate to be able to have that. And a lot of those business skills I just took out and applied it directly, 100% directly to my own businesses. And it's huge.
It's awesome.
It's huge. I don't know. Have you had a mentor?
So I'll say not for business. So I've had one when I worked in tech. I've had one, during my university days, but not one for my next level. um, and I think that's been a struggle for me because when you're doing things that your past mentors have never done, they can never explain to you what's about to happen next or prepare you for what's going to happen next. So I feel like maybe mentors are for specific reasons and seasons. And those who I have had in the past have maybe expired. Um, and so I have basically been trying to do it on my own. I just knew that I didn't want to work for any more tech companies anymore. I knew that for sure. I knew that my journey had been done there because there was no real sense of belonging. Being of color, we have all of these problems out in the world, and then we go into these corporations, and the problems are triple, where you have racist managers, you have employees who do not know what empathy is, who do not know how to include others that are different from them, regardless if the person has a handicap, they're LGBT, they're Black, Mexican, whatever. I have been in some very cruel environments working through Silicon Valley in my time in Austin, and I just don't want to experience that again. I felt that even my Singapore experience was better than that because it was me. It was all me. I decided to accept the contract. I decided to go abroad. I decided to make those steps forward. And I had to suffer the consequences that followed it as well. And during my times working in these corporations, anytime that I went through something, I have to wipe my own tears. I have to pat my own self on the back, and I have to go back to work the next day.
Wow. I'm gonna read you two quick references, two mentorship references. I got a buddy of mine named Ed Lattimore. People who have watched this channel and see me on my website, Ed and I have had a bunch of great talks. But he said two things that were really interesting. One of them was, the more unique your life, the fewer people who can relate to you. If you want human interaction, it becomes your job to relate to them instead. He also said, and here's another one, I'll post it on the comment section. This is one that relates here. He said, the more you, not the more unique you life, he said, if you want a unique life, realize you will have unique problems. Even with the best mentors in the world, it's impossible to get guidance on everything. Because my life is I lead a pretty wild life, but I was fortunate very early that a lot of the wild men, the guys that everybody would look at and say, that guy's nuts, they would look at me and say, hey, young man, you're just as crazy as I am. Let me help you to understand this, and kind of tame that wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to find people in common with you. You have to go. The internet has done a great thing because it allows us to find people who fit our brand of crazy.
Yes. That's true.
You know, they fit our brand of crazy. You can find someone just as crazy as you. I've mentored a few men who came to me for advice for different things, and the way I do it is different because I tell people I can only work with you for 6 months. If after 6 months you haven't achieved the things that we wanted you to achieve, I may not be the right mentor for you, or you may not have the ears to hear what I'm saying. But I've been able to work with a few guys to really get them from where they were to where they're going, and it's a grind. You know, I think whoever you do choose as someone to mentor you, the advice I can give you on choosing a mentor, or I call it seducing a mentor, go to them and show them your failures, but that you've already tried. You know, I have no problem saying when I was young, I would go to guys who were better at something than I was. I do blacksmithing, for example. And I found guys in my city online that were blacksmiths. Most of them had nothing in common with me. Most of them were middle-aged or really old white guys. But you know what I did? I found a bunch of them, and I found a couple of them that wanted to chat with me, and I went to their shop, and I said, you see these? These are my attempts at blacksmithing. And they were just these deformed pieces of metal. They were sad. I loved all my knives. They were my children, but some of them was not okay. And they realized, oh, this kid wants it. And they took the time to put me in the forge and show me how to get it done. It's no different from anything else.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. What would you say? I guess like with such combined experience and the direction I want to go in, I may not ever meet anyone with my same fire, but along the journey, I may meet people who have the tactics in place for where I would like my business to go. What would you say is like the best approach for people like that, where you may not have a lot in common, but the basics are there?
Well, this is the first question I would ask you. And this is not a trick question. When I ask you, what are you? What will you tell me? When I ask you, what are you? Tell me those 3 things that have nothing to do with business. What are you?
Smart, courageous, adventurous.
Okay. Find people who fit that description who are successful at something. The science may not be different. When you ask me, how do you find those people that may not have the things in common with you, all the other shit that you are may not matter if those are the first 3 things that come to mind. Show people. Do you have your own website now?
I do. It's CorderoDavis.com.
Let me take a look at it.
Where are you located now?
I'm located in Mississippi, at my family's house right now.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Are you in New Mexico?
No, I'm in Mexico.
Mexico. Got it. I'm sorry.
YusefWateef.com.
Yes.
Elsa, I sent you a friend request on Facebook.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. It's Elite.
Cordero, you are not up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Elise.
Yeah. No, that's why I mentioned Mexico City to you, because I lived there for 2 years. I'm now in a smaller city in Mexico. Just trying to focus on my business because Mexico City's so big, you can't focus. There's always something to do, and it's free a lot of the times. So
you're in Merida, right?
I was never in the house.
Of course.
Are you in Merida?
Yeah, Merida.
Merida. Okay, yeah, I heard good things about that place.
I mean, I only have Mexico City to compare it to, and Mexico City, like I said, is one of the largest cities on earth. So, you know, it's a very family-oriented city, and it's very quiet here. Like literally, I lived on a busy street in Mexico City, and it was always noisy till about 11 o'clock at night. And I walked outside here and just was walking, and nobody was outside. I could hear a pin drop, and I got scared.
Let me check in on my website, Yusef.
Yeah, your website's not up.
Let me check in on it.
But I do love the weather, and I do love the beach, and and Mexico City's up in the mountains. It's one of the highest places on earth too. So it can get a little chilly at night, and here is just always hot. So like always hot, and I'm always naked halfway almost. So and I love it.
So what the other place I'm going to go with this, Cordero, is have you identified people in your area of interest professionally who are successful at it? And can you funnel those down? Have you identified 10 people who do what you want to do?
Yeah, there you go.
I think I have in a way, but I have a twist on what I want to do. So I'm a certified career coach, but what I kind of expanded it into is journey coaching. So I want to be able to help people along the way, regardless if it's their career, travel, or cultural experiences that they would like to have. The reason why I expanded it is because I get so many people, like on my Instagram. I have like over 10,000 followers, but people are always asking me, how'd you do this? Where'd you do this? Can you help me with this, etc.? And so I wanted to be able to have a safe space for people to ask these specific questions. And so I put together a website and, and directed people there. But there are people who do my work, but I guess on a higher level. I like transformative coaching. That's what I truly want to get into. And people like Oprah Winfrey are doing it. People like websites like Travel Noir.
A couple small questions before we get too far away from one. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay. This is your curmudgeonly, grumpy old uncle here, right?
He's gonna tell you're too young.
What I'm gonna tell you, and I love you, brother. Focus on getting the experience first. If I'm talking to you as my little brother, this is what I'm gonna say. Where you are right now, you are not happy. Do you have some money saved in the bank?
No. I used it to come here.
Okay. Let's do it this way. Do you have a job and a hustle right now?
I'm working a job, but it's kind of dead end.
You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me here.
You're gonna have to move to a bigger city and get some experience, because I heard Mississippi and I was like, what are you doing there?
Yeah. So for someone who's lived in California and abroad, people aren't interested in hiring me to work in their organizations because they feel like I'm probably going to be taking their job. So that's just how Mississippi is ran.
This is what has to happen. And this is the mean part coming. And I'm not being mean. I'm being clear and direct to you, as I am with just like the people who pay me to talk to them this way. You need to take 6 months out of your life to not have any fun. You need to find a job and you need to find a side hustle. You need to do both of them for about 18 hours a day. And you need to save every penny minus what you have to pay for earning your keep. I don't care if you live with your parents or your friend, you pay your end of the bills. Then at the end of that 6 months, you get together with me, Elise, a few other people, find out where you can move to that's going to let you let you live there with a low cost of living, with you living out of a small room with your backpack and your laptop. From there, you are going to start gaining those other life experiences. That doesn't mean you're going to start then. It means while you're doing this now, when you get Cordero Davis back online, and people who know my hustle, people who have come to me for advice are going to recognize what I'm going to say to you. I want 500 words a week about your life experience and a different aspect of it. I will volunteer for the first month to professionally edit, copy edit, and proofread it to make sure it comes out the right way. I don't care what the subjects are. I don't care what it is that you want to talk about. You don't have a job now, so until you get a job, you need to be writing 1,000 words per week, 2 entries, 2 500 words a week entry about your life experience, what you've learned, what's made you laugh, what's made you cry, and start building up that book of life skills and your life skills aren't that great, you're 29, and start talking about, here are 3 or 4 places that I want to go. Does anybody know anybody there? I read this about this country. Does anybody know anybody there? So at the end of that 6 months, we can say, okay, you're a loaded cannon. Boom, you're going to go there. But right now you're in a small town. Like I was born in Niagara Falls, New York. It's a small backwards town. I don't know about yours, but I knew as a child I had to get out if I wanted to succeed. If you do not do these things, it's not going to get better. I'm looking you in the eye and I'm telling you, help is not coming. Nobody cares about you. I want to be abundantly clear. Nobody cares about you. Your mom and your dad might, the rest of the world, you could die tomorrow, it won't matter. Make yourself someone who matters. Make yourself a voice that will be missed. Because right now, your story is not unique. Why can I give good advice to so many people? Because very few people, only 20% of the people that come to me for advice on things I haven't seen or dealt with before.
And I so agree with Yusuf, and that's exactly why I'm in this small town in Merida, because I'm trying to get my shit together and start my little consulting business and my whole little business. And that's exactly, I totally agree with Yusuf. Yusuf, he's so on point, so on point.
Because here's the thing, when I ask you, do you have a job? That's a trick question. You always have a job. Your job is, I need to figure out how to get from where I am to where I'm supposed to be. If you don't wake up, like at your last job, what time did you have to go to work?
I went to work from like 9 to about 4. But this job that I have now, I go from like
Awesome.
8 to 5.
8 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you'll work for somebody else for 8 hours, why won't you work for yourself for at least 4 after that?
Well, I do. I've been putting in time.
Oh, tell me. Please,
Yeah.
please tell me, what have you been doing?
So,
No, better than that. What did you do last week that's not working for somebody else?
So last week, I am working on my other inclusion space. So me and my friend came up with an idea to create $5 lunch boxes for people who cannot afford to buy lunch every day. And so these lunch boxes will basically have inclusion messages inside of them. It'll be a way for us to have not only B2C, but B2B business as well. It'll be a...
No. Don't use acronyms because not everybody understands. I know what you mean, but they may not.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. So basically, customers, we be customer facing in the beginning, and then we will be business facing afterwards. And so we have built out an idea to create these in order to help people efficiently have lunch weekly, as well as a way to give back to the homeless. One box you buy, one box will go back to the homeless. We are still mapping out the idea and all of the logistics and whatever, but I've spent basically 4 hours on working on branding, the mission, as well as the colors,
Every
as
day
well
you spend
as
4 hours
lunchbox research. Not every day, but 3 days out of last week I did. Lunchbox purchasing research, as well as different types of menus that we can put together as well.
Okay. That was 3 days, and the other 4?
The other 4, I traveled. So for my job, I'm doing education consulting for higher ed right now. And so I travel to high schools every day, building relationships with counselors so that we can get more students into universities, well, the specific universities that are under admission numbers in Mississippi.
Okay. And that sounds like a pretty noble pursuit. And if you really are doing that and you're doing those every day, my question to you is, and I have nothing against your lunchbox idea, can I say that maybe you need to aim lower and aim at a target that you can hit earlier? Aim at a target that, first and foremost, I love your friend, but I don't know your friend, so what I'm going to say is impersonal. Aim at a target you can hit by yourself. Aim at a target
That's actually what I've been thinking about, because my friend is an engineer. My friend is an engineer, and she's been working on an app for 2 years. Where, as my mindset, if I had the engineering experience, if I could code, my app would be built in a week. And I just feel like
she doesn't know your problems. You don't know hers. Let's focus on you.
We talk all the time. She's been building it for 2 years. I haven't seen anything yet.
Stop telling yourself that you know her situation, because she doesn't really know yours. Nobody does. So let's do this. If you can say, starting next week, can you start working on a project that's gonna, and I'm all about, I call myself a small-time hustler. I've had a bunch of small to medium-sized businesses that have consistently brought me revenue that allow me to save a percentage of my income and travel the world. I'm not trying to be a giant corporate guy. I have that as an option now because of the other things I've done. But why don't we start trying to build a business idea for you that can make you a couple bucks here and there every month starting now? What can you do? You already have an education, and that's great. You have a website. Your website's not up. Start making yourself someone that people know who he is. If you're stuck in a town where you don't want to be right now or doesn't have options, start writing about where you want to go. Start writing about your ambitions. Start writing about books you've read, and start putting yourself out there and saying, this is what I can do, and can I do it for you?
LinkedIn together?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, here's the other thing, right? You help people get into college, right?
Now I help people get in college. Just 3 months ago, I helped people get jobs.
Okay.
That's been my thing.
I'm going to give you for free right now. I'm giving you the game. What if I told you you could do the same thing you do now, but you just find the audience is willing to pay you an exorbitant amount of money for it? I lived in Shanghai, China for years. You know what I did writing for a lot of extraordinarily rich families? They would pay me a backpack full of money to write their children's entrance papers. Why don't you say, I won't write your entrance paper for you, but give me 6 months and I can help your child get exposed to the best universities in America? And don't look for 100 clients. Let's just say if you could just get one. What if you could just get one person that's got a lot of money to say, you could help my dumbass son get into college?
Yeah.
They'll pay you too. Education is like big over there. They'll pay you for it. And again, I don't want you to talk about going corporate. I don't want to hear about these big plans. I want you to say, I just want to get one client. Are you on LinkedIn?
One goal at a time. One small goal at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that I agree with Yusef. I think your lunchbox idea is good, but I think, like he said, you need to think about something that's going to bring you revenue, because you're trying to get out of the circumstance that you're in right now. And I think if you would have used your platform when your whole deportation situation thing, if you would have used that as a platform to maybe help other people too, and it also could bring you money too, because that's what I did.
Yeah, I'll say that when I started beaforeigner.com, it's not something that I wanted to do, but people kept at me, asking me these questions over and over again. I'm like, well, shoot, I could turn into a business. For about 6 months. I did a little test drive to see if people would pay me for it, and they did. And so, I'm like, well, hey, and then that's when I got the business mentor, and I'm out here doing pitches and trying to get funding and everything else, and my name is out there, and so it's gonna take a minute. It's gonna take a minute, but all you can do is take it day by day anyway.
Okay.
But you gotta put the time in. Like Yusef said, if you can only do 2 hours a day, do 2 hours a day. If you could do 30 minutes, do 30 minutes. But you gotta put some kind of time on it every single day.
Got it. Wow.
Again, it's not easy, but you know why people do things like at me and at Elise? We have the information and we just try to help people with whatever it is that we can. And people look at us and say, oh, can I get in with you on this? Can I get in with you on that? All you need is to also get noticed. A few people in a few places have published works, and I've been interviewed here and there, and they always say, hey, this guy is this guy is that. And I meet a couple of people that way. And I give them what I can give them for free, but then a lot of them come to me and say, hey, I'd like to hire you to do this for me, or I want to introduce you to that person. Mm-hmm. By the way, I'm looking at you on Instagram, Cordero Davis. Is that your Instagram account?
No, it's I am Coach C. Davis.
I am
Coach C. Davis.
Yeah, and to add on, people keep asking me, when are you coming back to Mexico City? Like, I'm not till I get to where I want to be, because it's cheap here and I'm focused, and Mexico City is not going to give me the tools and allow me to be where I want to be. And so if that takes 2 years, then that's what it's going to be.
Follow me on Instagram.
Huh?
Follow me on Instagram. YusefWateef.
Hold on 1 second. I'm on the phone. Let me slide out. Let me see. What is it again? I'm sorry.
YusefWateef.
Got it. Yep, just followed you.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I'll follow you, and I'll tell you. Let me hold on a second. Let me find it. So I'm gonna give you some more free game. I'm looking at your Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looks nice. You've got a lot of cool pictures, traveling the world, doing awesome stuff. You know what I don't see? I don't see you talking about any of the other cool, awesome people you met. I don't see you giving the people who know you and know what you can do a reason to send you information, business, or connections. I don't see you using your platform for other people who may not be as far up the ladder as you are and saying, hey, this dude is cool. You should talk to him. He's fun. He's fun. Follow his Instagram account.
Okay.
I wrote an article not too long ago and posted it. And I forgot the name. Hold on. Let me. Oh, we got a couple of other people that want to join. Let me give them the link. Looks like Dr. Nicole is gonna want NI.
Cordero, are you on Facebook too?
Yes, I'm on Facebook. Feel free to add me. Let me find your name, one of the two. I would look for it right now. Let me see. Brandy. Hi, Brandy. What's your last name?
Stevens with the PH. He tagged us in the post, I think. He tagged me.
Okay. Stevens, got it. Elise, can I add you as well?
Yeah, you can add me.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's my name. Don't put the one with the Y. It's just without the Y. I have a whole bunch.
Okay, maybe that's why he didn't get it.
No, I think I saw you. I think I saw you.
Okay.
Yeah. What I do with it?
It was about connecting people. And I just sent you a link. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to send you a picture from this discussion. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And on your Instagram and on your Facebook, repost that picture and then say, here's some of the things that we talked about. Here's some of the things that I think might be interesting that I might follow up with. Here are my opinions of Elise and Wateef. Here's a link to YusefWateef.com because he's the guy that introduced me to some of these concepts. Then you start to, enter, your river and my river start to mix, and I can send you people and you can send me people. Because I might have people that watch me who aren't my style of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
People they might share your brand of insanity, and they're like, "Oh, well, finally, Wateef introducing me to somebody who's my crazy."
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how else to. Oh, wait, is she? Hold on. She said it didn't come through. That's weird.
And just to let you know, once you become an entrepreneur, you can never go back. No, it becomes addicting. It becomes addicting.
It's funny, but I also I've always done graphic design, but I've never seen it as something that I want to turn into a business. I'm always doing branding and helping people with putting things together because I'm really good at that. But I never saw that as turning into a business. I saw it as fun because it is fun for me,
Wait. Give me an example of what you did.
So I do invitations, graduation, birthday. I can do banners. I can do, I do shirt designs, and I do all that stuff. So, but I see it, like I said, I see it as something fun. It's not like a business, something I want to do for business because I don't want to do that all day. No.
Yeah, that's like me in web design. Web design was actually my first love. I was supposed to go into IT and all that other crap.
Yeah.
And like you said about the racism and the sexism, and I was like, I don't want to go there. So I studied accounting, but web design is my first love, and I'm glad that I learned it because I don't have to pay anyone to do it for me.
Yep.
When you said graphic design and the things like that, can I tell you that there is an entire subculture of people on groups like, we got somebody new. All right, hold on one second. There's an entire subculture of people who do things like Upwork.com, Fiverr.com, who do nothing but make links and stuff.
That's not his first love, though. Oh, what's going
Malika.
on?
Hi.
Hello.
I don't know how much you got to see before.
What'd you say?
I don't know how much you got to see of this before, Malika, or did you just jump in?
I just jumped in.
Gotcha. Well, you just said hello to me on LinkedIn.
Right.
And tell them
I saw you in a. I'm Malika. I'm a teacher. I'm currently working in Kuwait. So this is my first year internationally. I've been teaching for about 7 years, and I'm from Chicago.
What school are you at? Kuwait?
I'm at a Universal American School.
Oh, okay. I know that school.
I wanted to ask you about that first year. I've been outside of America most of my adult life. I want to hear your impressions on it and what got you out of the house, because on one of the threads where a lot of people had been messaging me, they were asking, how do I get out of the door?
Yeah.
What made you, not necessarily the technical how you did it, but how did you get the whatever it is that we need to say?
The drive.
Yeah.
I had been thinking about it for some years. I honestly cannot remember where I first heard about the opportunity of teaching in the Middle East, but it was just something that I always wanted to do. And I just kept putting it off. And my son graduated from 8th grade last year, and I said it's now or never. So I applied, I prayed, a job fell in my lap, and I think maybe 6 weeks later, I was gone. No fear. I reached out to a lot of people. I talked to a bunch of people on Facebook. I researched as much as I possibly could, and I just jumped right in. Best decision ever. No regrets.
Wow. I'm proud of you. A lot of people don't want to.
Yeah.
They don't have that lack of fear that it takes to do it. And I was very interested in just kind of hearing how you did it. You added me on LinkedIn. What are you expanding your network? Are you looking at other places to go?
Yeah, I'm looking for another position. I actually found your information in a group. I think Black Educators Abroad, maybe. And you responded to somebody, and then I reached out to you on LinkedIn.
Oh, right on. I know a lot of people come to Brazil and they work for these big international schools that have families. I think those jobs are very attractive to people with families because it provides free or almost at cost quality education for their children.
Right.
In another place, and schools that are better than a lot of people even have access to in the United States. Because an international school, many international schools are better than, just better than. There's no.
How has your son adjusted?
Socially, he's adjusted well. So when we first moved here, I think there was one other Black kid in middle school. So he was the only Black kid in high school. And for like the first couple of months, it was like he was famous.
That's it.
Literally, like a line of people trying to meet him. He knows everybody. I was like, okay, now let's get this schoolwork together. But socially, he flourished out here socially. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that part.
That's
He has,
the
and the other thing that really drew me to come out here after talking to so many people, I knew that he would have the freedom to just grow up. Like back home, I lived in a suburb of Chicago, but I still had to watch him. I started being nervous about him becoming a teenager. There's so many incidents at the mall or starting to drive, and that I just didn't know how I was going to deal with that being a single parent. And so this move was really good for that. Like he can come and go as he, within reason as he pleases. It's just better for him to kind of grow up outside of the States.
Wow.
I agree. My daughter, she would go when we were in Kuwait, she was able to do the same thing. And she was also famous too. Oh my God, Lola, it's a Black girl.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of my friends whose children grew up in international schools outside of the United States for the first, let's say they left when they were 5 and 4, 5 and 7, and they've been gone for about 8 years, 9 years, and they came back.
Mhm.
And she called me. She was having a mild nervous breakdown. I couldn't understand what was wrong. She realized that her son had never been black in America. They'd never been black men in America. They'd never been black boys in America. And she was terrified that how do you teach someone that came from a place of relative safety to relative danger, particularly from the police and men in uniform?
Yeah, I don't know if you know Adelia. Adelia was in Mexico City for a while. Me and her became cool, and we went to this huge expo, and the lady had some very expensive lotions and soaps and stuff at the cart, and we're looking at them and stuff. She left us there, and she's going to go talk to her friends and stuff, and we're just looking at each other. We didn't have to say words. We didn't have to say words. We're like, what is this lady doing? She just leaving our black asses over here with her stuff, and then we talking about $10 soap bars and stuff, and
Right.
it's just different. Nobody follows you around in the store. They just let you go on, and it's just
The way it's supposed
crazy.
to be. Yeah.
That's the crazy part. When you realize it doesn't have to be the way that it is, that it could be different. That once you have that taste of freedom, it's kind of one of the reasons that so many people never go back to America. I remember listening to "I Am Not Your Negro" with who was I with? Because I've watched it many times with different friends. In any case, he talked about that feeling he had having left America just to be black, writing in France, and going back. And how that feeling of dread, that feeling of understanding that you're going into a situation where it's a terrible place for you.
And to speak on the police here, I've walked up to the police many a times and asked for directions. They're smiling. They're happy to meet me. Shoot, some of them be wanting your autograph sometimes. And
Where are you located?
I'm in Merida, Mexico, but I spent 2 years in Mexico City before that. And they ride around with their guns and stuff, and it's just like. And one time I had like Yusef was saying, I had a nervous breakdown because I'm sitting outside the mall and I'm seeing these cops and they're riding by with their AK-47s and shotguns, and I'm just like, oh my God, like where am I and what am I doing with all these cops around me? But they ain't worried about me.
Yeah,
it's terrifying. Like here in Brazil, where they kill lots of black people, one of the differences, and this is another thing that a lot of expats have a lot of serious conversations over, is when you're from another country and you're black, they say they look at you differently. Because here, where you live and things like that play a role in it. But one of the things my friends told me is they said the reason your stay here has been totally event-free is two things. One, you don't live in black places. Like I think in my building, there's one other black family, my entire apartment building. But on my street, I think how many other black families there are. He says you don't live in basically their equivalent of quote unquote black neighborhoods. And also the instant they look at you, he said before you ever say a word, they look at you and go, "Oh, you're here American." And I said, "But I look black just like everybody else." I mean, one of my buddies looks like he'd be one of my cousins. They said, No. You don't look Brazilian at all. I said, but I have the same skin color, the same shape of my head. They're like, it's just totally different. So people will not even begin to apply that same level of danger or racism or the police look at you weird if they would someone else.
Well, my first neighborhood was in the ghetto in Mexico. And so I had the time of my life. Funny because I got lost my first night in Mexico City. And I was terrified and I was scared to ask people for help because I'm like, they're going to take me and they're going to carve out my kidney and all this other kind of stuff. People are so helpful. Little kids came up to me and they were like, what do you need help? I was like, I don't know where I live at. Like, I don't know. It's my first night here. dude put me in the back of the car. I'm like, oh God, he gonna ride off with me. And then I finally found a lady, and she hooked me up with some Haitian dude that spoke French, English, and Spanish, and he helped me find my apartment. But yeah, my first month and a half, I lived in the ghetto in Mexico City, and I saw many of people that looked like they could be my uncle.
Yeah.
And that's how it was when our first place in Kuwait. Like when we first moved there, the first place was in the ghetto too.
Yeah.
It was rough, and we were around the locals. I mean, I guess not like Kuwaitis, but we were around. It was just Egyptians. So but
Okay.
it was cool. So but then the second school, it was different. We were around more expats.
Wow.
Yeah, my first
Yeah.
stint in Shanghai, I actually lived in a very upscale area. I worked for a boarding school, and the boarding school was actually connected to condo, so we lived right beside the boarding school. And then when I went to Hong Kong, I had the same experience. It was a pretty nice area. And then in Singapore, I lived in a 5-star area. So I would say that I was probably one of the only black faces there a lot of times. But the families were extremely welcoming, some of them, or they would just look the other way on the elevator. But it was different in
Right.
every country, because in Shanghai, they follow me around in the grocery store. They want to buy what I'm buying. They want to touch my hair. They want to touch my skin. I was actually I was there with other HBCU alum from Howard, 2 girls that were from Howard University, and they had really big hair. And a lady grabbed her hair on the train, and all of a sudden I just saw the lady flying down the train because we had just told her, like, don't touch her hair. And I just want to touch it, you know? I mean, and they don't understand the language a lot in parts of Shanghai, so you have to speak Mandarin to them. So if they can't understand you, they're going to do it anyway. So it was a lot of unregarded disrespect, like unconscious disrespect that they would do, like, not have their babies in Pampers, so you'll see the babies use it all around, even on the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
They pee.
I heard
That
about
was
that.
weird.
Yeah.
As
It
a
was pretty
people,
weird.
some of the things that were socially acceptable there were made even someone with the stomach of a goat like me kind of cringe. It was hard. I will tell you, one of my experiences in Shanghai, I don't know if you've been this, I'd be walking downtown someplace and people walk up to me and put their baby in my hand and take a picture. I'm like, you just gave your child to a stranger. I mean, here, put it in my arms and hug me and take it. I'm like, okay.
I have named like 50 babies. I've named for my whole family. They all got some ghetto names.
Oh my gosh, he didn't give him Shaniqua and Tyrone.
Wow.
Daquan.
Real impact. Real
impact.
Before we get too far away from the topic, and I actually feel bad because I think that Malika got the back end of things. Before we go too far down Storyland, Cordero, do you feel as if we helped you? Do you think that I gave you and at least gave you some information that you can take action on?
Definitely. Yes. I feel that things that I was telling myself, I guess I kind of just needed that confirmation. And now it's all about building a strategy to get there. Some things happened which left me in a state of I don't know, after leaving Singapore. And I just needed to be reassured that I was feeling the right way. And by being here, a part of this conversation has definitely shall I say, validated my feelings of course, family is great, home is great, but it's not always going to be a place where I belong. And mostly because I've had so much exposure to a different world. We even talked about this in one of my Black international groups. We call it the Black Brunch, which is we have a Black brunch every month, and we would talk about subjects like safety and women abroad and women, how they feel, Black women, how they feel when they're in America. And it's just so different. We felt a sense of safety when we are abroad and we're away. We do feel alone sometimes, but I feel that 98% of Black men are safer abroad than they are in America. I mean, we can just be riding down the street, going to another state or wherever the case, going to a basketball game, and we can be shot, you know, and our mother's fear have this continuous fear of something happening to us or worry. I think that my family hasn't thought about this in a very cultivating way. Is they've been worried about me being away, but they've never had to truly worry about me being away because I've never truly been in danger. But here, I'm right here where they can get to me and they can assess me. And right now I'm sitting in one of our back rooms and it's an open window right here. Anybody can just drive by shooting right now. It's already happening. So the fact that those types of things happen here and they don't happen abroad, it makes me feel a deeper sense of connection to just being a little bit away, a little further away. And so I haven't decided. I'm going to do a little bit of research and figure out which country fits me best, whether that's Mexico, Brazil, whatever, or Canada. I think that's a great option too. I have to make that decision, and it's going to be hard, but I have to make it, and I have to dedicate time to my brand a lot more as well. And I appreciate all of the insight that all of you have given me today.
I'll tell you something else too. When you think about going abroad, when you kind of narrow down where you want to go, start learning the language. And everybody laughs when I say this, but if you have no other resources at all, download the free Duolingo app. It's not going to teach you the language, but if you can get 20% of the vocabulary written down, when I came to Brazil, one of the things that really saved my ass is I'm not fluent in Portuguese. I'm not even as good as I should be, but because I learned how to read when I got here, I just wasn't illiterate. I could look at a sign. I could look at a menu and say, oh, I know where I'm going. I know where this bus goes. I know where this train goes. You know, I know that things like that matter. And past that, get an online tutor. If you ever think about Portuguese, let me know. I know plenty of online tutors that will sit with you 2-3 hours a week. And, you know, they don't charge a whole lot of money because of the exchange price. But if it's Mexico, talk to Elise. I'm sure she can hook you up with some people who are fluent in Spanish and you get on it.
Yes, I speak Spanish.
I'm okay. So
I didn't know anything when I came to Mexico, but Spanish is so next to English. You know, my reading is, you know, I can make a lot of things out when I came. So, and it wasn't hard at all. Like, it was so easy, just so easy. And that's why I keep coming back to Mexico. It's just too damn easy.
It's awesome.
You know, I know Colombia is another big place. There's a huge community there too.
Yes, Colombia.
But don't be afraid to think outside of the box. You're the first person I heard say Canada, but hey.
Well, I said Canada because he said he wanted to be close, you know, so Canada, Mexico would be, you know, the closest.
Yeah, I was born someplace cold, and I decided when I was
never again. We're tropical people.
I think after a year in hot Singapore, I probably wouldn't mind Canada.
It's 100 degrees here every day.
Where are you at now?
I'm in Mississippi now.
So you don't really know cold weather?
Cold? Yeah, I actually do. I grew up in parts of Chicago as a kid, back and forth. So I understand what cold is. Okay. Yeah.
I was about to say, Canada, that's a whole nother ball game.
A whole nother ball game, huh?
With the weather, yeah, that's cold weather. Lots of snow.
What I want everybody to do is I'm going to also send you in the group chat. I'm going to send you a little link. I want everybody to go to this video, and I want in the comment section, I want you to leave a link to your websites, your email address if you want to. All of you feel free to add me on WhatsApp. I feel like I did a good thing today, and I'm proud of that. And you are all welcome. I mean, normally a lot of the discussions we have, at least will tell you, we get hard and heavy on a lot of serious subjects. Actually, tonight we're probably going to talk about the bombing in Bali and Bali, excuse me.
Sri Lanka.
The bombing in Sri Lanka and some other serious issues that might not be so much fun. You're all welcome to come back. Some of my, less sane friends may be on with us.
Why don't you turn this into a podcast?
You're kind of late. I have a website where I actually even post these.
How am I late? I'm new to this, and you. That means
How
it needs to
did
be
you find us,
introduced.
Cordero? How did you find us?
I'm in the Black Educators group. I actually saw someone that tagged Yusef in a message, and I just added him as a friend. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we'll do. Everybody, do me a quick favor, real quick. Tell us where we can find you, and if you want to leave any contact, tell us right now before we even write it. Let's start with on the side. Let's start with Brandy.
You can find me. My website is www.iteach.international. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and that's it, I think. And they can also email me bstevens. That's B, the letter B, STEPHENS @iteach.international.
Right on. Cordero.
You can find me at Cordero Davis on Facebook, as well as I am Coach C Davis on Instagram, and my website, CorderoDavis.com.
Reef.
EliseRobinson.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that under Elise Robinson. My business is beaforeigner.com. If you're looking to move overseas, I can help you with the planning. I post daily opportunities to move overseas every day. And yeah, just get at me if you're thinking about moving overseas.
Malika.
I don't have a website or anything. Just my email address, Malika, MELIKA.Audain, AUDAIN @gmail.com.
And the reason I do this is because they may meet someone through me that matches their crazy. And if you want to reach out to someone and say, hey, I want to know your story, maybe you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
I need to meet with Elise because I plan to spend my summer there.
Well, you know what?
I was looking to come in there for the summer.
And married up?
Everybody, sit tight, all right? I'm saying goodbye to everybody else, but everybody here sit tight.